What's up, guys and gals? This is Griever back here, bringing you guys the latest behind-the-bar reviews for One Piece! One Piece chapter 972. Let's get cooking, because this, right off the bat, before I forget, they shoot some, what they call far-distance arrows. There's a few different translations, and I was reading the Viz, and I think they were called the long-distance arrows. Either way, they shoot these arrows, and they travel literally from province to province, and all I could keep picturing was how that epic scene in Lord of the Rings, where they're lighting all the beacons, they light the beacon and all the flames across the world, and it's doing this pan, and the theme song starts rolling up, and it's just like, and all it is to let the beacons of Gondor lit, they call for aid, sort of idea, like it's a symbol. It would be as epic. I know it's just this one little panel shot. We see Yasue open it up here close to the beginning of the chapter, but it would be so much more epic if it wasn't to basically say, Odin's gonna die. Odin's gonna die. Like if it wasn't such a downer of a message, more like we will unite the country with these arrows and we will send the beacons across, and now it's time to fight the evil Mordor sort of idea. Yeah, no, it's for a less badass reason, but still, I wanted to remember to mention that before we get for the rest of the chapter. So, because I really hope the anime does that justice. Like when they shoot the arrows and stuff, we see a lot more of it, and maybe we see like how far they travel and all this stuff. Just make it a little more embellished, because I really think, I mean, that's something that's like, okay, they shoot these arrows from where, from what, who shoots them, and how can they shoot them a province across each other? But anyways, that being said, this chapter takes off at the beginning of the, at the end of the last chapter, where Shinobu has been basically yelling and screaming about what has actually transpired with Odin and all that stuff, right? And the people have finally started to believe it. They're just like, at first they're all like, oh, our emotions, like we can't take this. What are you saying? Like, for 5 years we believed A, we can't just all of a sudden switch to B. Fukurokuju of the Oniwaban shows up and basically says, Shinobu, like, no, like, you misunderstand, like, none of this is going to happen. And Shinobu's like, screw you, screw Orochi, I am Lord Odin's vassal, the Kazuki clan are the rightful heirs, I'm going to die with them, I am one of his vassals, I won't stand by any longer. And I'm like, okay, that's fair, that's pretty cool. But this information spread like wildfire throughout the capital, right? Like throughout the crowd, throughout the people. And eventually, people came to realize, especially after some people started to beseech Shogun Orochi and say, listen, please stop this. And they were shot with arrows into the crowd. And it was kind of like, wait a minute. Something that was the turning point. It was actually probably a bad idea on Orochi's part. The crowd didn't fully really believe. Some people did, but it was still sowing confusion. But as Oda describes, at that moment, once they realized that they were surrounded, that this is what was happening, Kaido and Orochi really did just take over their country, and they can't stop it anymore, because their last hope is now sitting in a vat of oil burning alive. All of a sudden, they snapped. And the whole crowd, before the 1 hour is up, the whole crowd has recognized the citizens. And they're like, oh, Kazuki Odin, that's our real shogun. What have we done? How could we have been so blind? How could we have been so judgmental and stupid? And a lot of the crowd's people remark on this. How could we have been so foolish? And so, honestly, from Orochi's standpoint, that was bad for him. Had he not shot into the crowd and just let people say what they wanted to do their thing, confusion still would have sown in. I'm not fully convinced that without him actually shooting arrows into the crowd for people actually begging for Odin's life, had they not have shot those arrows, potentially, it still would have been sort of like a 70-30, 50-50 split on, is Shinobu telling the truth? Is that really what Odin did? Is it not? Isn't he the fool of the Lord? The confusion still would have run rampant. But because Orochi basically showed his hand, all of Wano realized what had happened. Now, once again, clearly that was successful for the last 20 years, so maybe it didn't really affect things in the grand scheme. But let's say, for example, that was the turning point It was a bad move on Orochi's part, at least in my opinion. He says silence trash or die trash, sort of idea. And we get this whole thing. Everything's going through the idea that Odin is still holding this up, and the minutes are going by, and Orochi wants to turn up the heat and make sure that he dies. The people start, praising him and saying, look, we're sorry. We were so blind. You can do this, Odin. You can go through this. Kazuki clan for the win, sort of idea. And the people are cheering for him. And the scabbards are getting pissed. They're like, it's fine for you guys to be this way now and stuff. And Odin's just like, I appreciate you. Thank you. And they're like, you're being too nice, man. Like what the hell? I just, no, that's fine. It's fine. I'm good. Yep. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I appreciate your kind words. Thank you, It's kind of like that you ever been to a major league sport game and you get those type of fans. It's very rampant in Montreal for hockey. You get those fans that basically boo their own team when they're losing, but then cheer at the end if they win. Being a hockey player on Montreal is a very difficult thing, I would think, as a result of that. We're not the greatest fans. I hear that Philadelphia Eagles are the same idea. As a Cowboys fan, I don't really associate with the Eagles, but that sort of mentality seems to be the case here. But Odin is just being like that above the rest, a cut above the rest standard of sportsmanship and stuff. It's like, I don't care that they booed me and threw, cans onto the playing field and stuff and said how much I sucked for 3/4 of this game. Because I'm winning now, they're cheering me and I'm appreciative. That's basically what Odin's doing here. And I'm like, Odin, you are a cut above the rest. You are up here with sportsmanlike conduct. You are just a cream of the crop. You are a true Chad. Now, during all this, Odin decides to talk about his dream, about opening Wano's borders, and the reason for it, that the Kazuki clan were actually the ones to close Wano off in the first place. And they did this to protect itself. They did this to protect it from a great external power hundreds of years ago. And now, but when that figure arrives, when basically Joy Boy comes back, apparently they believe, it's weird because they say when a figure, after an 800-year span, and what came to my mind right away was Toki. Toki arrived after an 800-year span. Did he not connect those dots? Or is it very clear from what they found out at Laugh Tale and with Roger and everything, the information that we're still not privy to, that Toki is not the figure, Toki is not the Joy Boy from after 800 years of waiting? I guess that's what I'm going to assume, because at this point, Odin clearly, I would assume, believes in Toki and knows about her power and everything, because that was already brought up, because Odin talks about this at the end of the chapter in a letter and in the jail cell and all that stuff. But it just right away I thought a figure from 800 years, Toki. But clearly there is some information missing, and Joy Boy, by the sounds of it, Joy Boy is going to reappear or return. Whether that means they're frozen in carbonite or whatever, I have no idea. But it's interesting the terminology used, the way he talks about Joy Boy. This figure will come back pretty much. It's kind of like there's somebody from 800 years ago that's going to reappear. Perhaps the original person of the Time fruit, the possessor of the Time fruit, actually brought someone even further in time, to the time of the present day, to the time of Luffy and all that stuff. So that'll be very interesting when all the dots finally set into place. But outside of that speculation, he basically tells everyone, this is my dream, open up Wano's borders, be ready to work with this person so we can save the world, sort of idea. And then he survives the boiling at the end. Everyone's just amazed. 1 minute to go, 3 minutes to go, 1 minute to go. He's done it. He survived the boiling, and everyone's cheering. And then all of a sudden he's like, yes, he survived, even though he stated quite a bit into the execution, I'm not going to lie with you. They are going to kill me today. However, that doesn't mean I want you to, share my dream with me. And that's what they say. Your dream is our dream, Lord Odin, sort of idea, is what the retainers keep telling him. And Odin is pleased by this enough that in the end, even though Orochi changes, that scumbag, he changes the method of execution. With 1 minute to go, I changed it. We're going to kill you anyways. And I'm like, you freaking, man. Anyways, So that all happens. Kaido doesn't look happy about this. Kaido doesn't look thrilled at all that this is the way that Odin kind of went out. And at this point, I think Tekking has made a video actually all about like Kaido and his reaction and his feelings towards Odin, and especially with this chapter. He made that video today, I think. I was watching it either late last night or early today, and that goes pretty much in depth. What I'm going to mention here is that at this point, when all the guns are cocked and they're ready to, fire on Odin anyways, Odin says, don't underestimate my samurai, and boom, he, throws them all away sort of idea and says, go, and it's a really tear-jerking moment, honestly, because each of the members is run for Curry, head for Curry, and don't look back. And Kinemon and all of them, they scatter and they head forward. They're being chased, and there were tears streaming down all their faces. They're remembering the first time they met Odin, their first interaction with him, and what a great man he was. And during this whole time, Odin's just talking to Kaido, and Kaido's like, you know what? Like, he brings out a double flintlock pistol, and it looks pretty nice, actually. Got a really nice, carvings and stuff on it, and an embellishment. And he's just like, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to be the one to finish you off then. That's basically what, like, my sign of respect is that I'll be the one to take you down, and he says, but don't fret, like, you will be remembered. Like, they will speak of you for years to come. And this is where Odin says, yeah, well, I don't care if they remember me at all, because my soul will live on. Your strength, you better prepare, because something even worse is going to come. Like, you will be put in your place, pretty much. It's like, and Kaido says, I'm sorry about that old hag. I already had her killed. And that's what he literally says to Odin. I'm sorry about that. Because Kaido, a lot of people were really bitching about Kaido. And about how Kaido was, like, he's a pirate, but he didn't win a fair fight. Odin could have killed him. The only person to ever injure him. All this stuff. And he won through, like that underhanded method. And a lot of people are defending that he's a pirate, but a lot of people counter-argument is that, yeah, but he's a beast. He's a Yonko. He's one of the emperors. Emperors don't need help like that. Emperor fights should be between emperors. They should still be 1v1. They should still be fights where they do the work. Like, they shouldn't, like, underhanded tactics to win a fight for a Yonko, that's got to be almost disgraceful. And in a sense, it kind of is, because look at how the fan base is divided about it. But even Kaido himself, pointing the gun, says, I already killed that old hag. So now we know how Higurashi died, because Kaido killed her. He probably got pissed off after the fight, after, he was in the heat of battle, and he was like, bam, Odin's open. Then he realized, wait, what happened? Why was he distracted? Oh, you bitch. And he might have throttled her there on the goddamn battlefield. For all we know. And what's Orochi going to say? You killed my grandmother! And it's like, you want to be next? So, like, that's, I guess, part of it. It just seems that, like I feel like this is Kaido's way of, we're getting a little bit of development that even Kaido wouldn't be thrilled with winning against anybody like that. Not Odin, not Roger, not Whitebeard, nobody. Kaido would not be happy about winning a fight in that way. So he wasn't happy about it. He wasn't thrilled. And potentially, because we only know Kaido of the present storyline, the one who seems to like to play the game of life or death with himself. And, jumping off of Sky Islands and stuff. Perhaps it was Odin's words that triggered this in him. Maybe he decided he really did need to get stronger in the same sense. Not like a fear like Orochi has, but more of an admiration and respect to be like, for all of Odin, maybe I should get stronger and test out my durability and my endurance and stuff. That's a possibility. I like to think more, now this one's a little more far-fetched, but I like to think that the reason, he was always getting drunk, but maybe he gets drunk and cries and, attempts certain things, is because he realized, like, he actually feels disgraced. When he gets drunk, he realizes he just feels disgraced that Odin might have actually been a rival similar to Whitebeard or Roger to him, he might have actually lost. He didn't actually beat Odin straight up, and that gnaws at him, that he went 1v1 against Odin and he didn't win the right way, even as a pirate. So I like to go on that line a little bit and think that maybe that could be part of the reason. It's a little far-fetched, but I kind of like that, because Kaido says, I'm sorry about that, sort of idea. He's still a pirate, he's still not a great guy, but even he who's so into his own strength, who's so, prideful in his own right for who he is and his own power, to win a battle like that again in such an underhanded way, it doesn't even sit well with him. It's just a bit of a low blow even for Kaido to deal with. And these years later, he's probably sitting there sometimes just getting drunk and thinking about it, and then he tears up and he just goes, how could I do that? How could I have let him die, like that? I could have had a rematch. I should have done this. I should have done that, sort of idea, Granted, I think that's just some headcanon, but it's how I kind of feel about it. Now, after this, we finally get the death of Odin. And I've been one of the ones toting that Odin could potentially still be alive. He'll survive this boiling in some way. Something's going to happen, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's no other way to look at it. He, screams to the heavens and says, I am Odin, and I was born. And bang, right in the head. We see the shot. We see him fall back. O-D-N. Because he dies with a smile on his face while he sinks into the last of the burning oil. And the whole crowd at once finishes Odin's sentence and says, to boil! And I got to give it to you. For a flashback where we already knew the outcome. We already knew Odin was going to die. We already knew basically Wano was going to be taken over. We had to get to the point in the present storyline where Kaido and Orochi are still in power, Odin is dead, and all this goes down. So even knowing that, it's very hard to drug up the emotional take. It's not like some of the other deaths and things that we've seen in this series thus far, but I still got a little bit of the feels there, because we've been following Odin for more than just a couple of chapters of flashback. It's been a few months now. We've followed him for over 10, 12 chapters, and a lot of the fan base has grown to love Odin as a character, and to know that, he was going to die, and we were all holding on to that little thin thread that maybe it'll be left ambiguous and we can still hold on. No, Oda makes it pretty freaking clear that Odin is no more. So that's a bit of a heavy blow, but I guess a lot of people will be happy about this in a sense, in a kind of a sick way. But I understand a lot of people are tired of the flashback and they want to jump back to the emotion, jump back to the present storyline and really start the final confrontation in Wano. I understand a lot of people want that, so I guess this is a sign that that's going to happen shortly, maybe next chapter, maybe the chapter after, but that's the case. So anyways, let's just jump into the last little bit of the chapter here, because it involves the one who I called traitor, but now I really don't think that's the case. I don't actually, maybe there's not even a traitor at all, but we jump in here with Lady Toki. So yes, a lot of people were talking about Lady Toki and how she seemed to be unfeeling, like she seemed to be super calm about the execution and the fight and all this stuff. And some people were surmising that potentially, along with her time fruit, she's actually able to catch glimpses of the future and such. Some type of future sight. Maybe it's not too accurate, but something like that. But no, it was simply because she did not want to show weakness. The people would lose faith. She held her head high and strong and acted like everything. She was a rock for everything that was going on right now. But we see that she actually is very sad. She is crying where no one can see that Odin has died. Odin also gifts her the two swords, saying, give these to our children and such. And Odin, laughs with her and stuff, but he gives her a letter that she rips up saying, basically 20 years from now. So clearly whatever happened, as I said, they arrived too soon. Once again, the reason I think Shanks was crying for Roger was not that Roger was going to die soon, maybe a part of it, but the part of the fact was they reached Laugh-Tale too early. Rayleigh says something similar, is that had they not reached there, basically had Roger been alive in the time of Luffy, had their crew just shown up 20 years later, around that time, that was the right time to show up at Laugh-Tale. Something is time sensitive about this. So, because how would Odin have such insight into what was going to go down 20 years from now? Why not 15? Why not 25? But 20. Roughly 20, he knew. So, something at Laugh-Tale told them what's going to go down. So he tells Toki, use your time powers, and save the future. The primary figures of this great war, a massive war is going to break out, and that'll be the time that Kaido will be taken down. If I fail to defeat Kaido here and now, then there is very few people, there's no one left to defeat. Once again, a lot of people are saying, why didn't he contact Whitebeard? I would argue the fact that, once again, without a ship, without someone to navigate a ship, and I'm not sure who or how they should have potentially went about this, but Odin himself had tried to leave Wano for years. He couldn't because he literally would just get sucked back in and land ashore on Wano again. He never got to land on another island. So Odin himself can't just build a raft and leave. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways to go about it, but he physically can't really get word to Whitebeard. So unless Whitebeard shows up, or Rayleigh, or somebody of might and power shows up at Wano for a visit, he's on his own. And he always expressed that he was going to work on his own sort of idea, but that he didn't need help from the Roger Pirates and stuff. We already saw that with his attitude, but yeah, there's, I don't know. To me, this was a fine way. It was, some people will say the pacing's a little odd and such, but this flashback was quite good, I felt. The letter just simply states that the massive war is going to happen in about 20 years. The primary figures of that war are going to be there, and that's when we need to be ready. That's the time that's going to happen. By then, that's when Kaido will be taken down if I don't stop him, this, that, and the other thing. And so Toki starts crying, saying, look forward to the future, Odin, because 20 years into the future. And the chapter states, here's the last part I got to talk about. The chapter states is that, and we jump forward to the present storyline, next chapter will be March 1st. Okay. The thing is that, does that mean next chapter we're jumping? Because if we're jumping next chapter by page 1, then we're still not going to see, why did she only send Momonosuke? Why not all the scabbards? Who volunteered to stay behind? Did she explain the plan? Why not herself? Did Lady Toki die? Is she still alive? There's so many other questions here, right? So, that being part of it, I guess, I'm just very curious if we're truly going to jump. Maybe we'll jump half and half through the next chapter. Hard to say, but what's 973 actually going to bring? Are we actually going to jump back to the shores of Onigashima, where everyone is basically thinking that this war is not possible, that their plan has been foiled? Is that where we're going to jump into? Because there's still some things left. Of course, we followed Odin through this flashback. So with no Odin left, the flashback is pretty much over. And according to the text box, we will be jumping to the present storyline. But I still say there are still mysteries, there are still questions from between the time of Odin's death to this 20-year time skip, to the jump. So, not that we're necessarily going to get that, but I am a little curious. What do you guys think? But that's the end of the chapter, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, of course. It's always very much appreciated. If you want to join my Discord, the link will be in the box down below. And you'll also be notified every single time I drop a video on YouTube if you do join that and you just don't want to hit the bell notification, I guess. So, that being said, this has been Griever with your Behind the Bar reviews for One Piece, chapter 972. Drink responsibly as always. See you back here next time.